What's up everybody, welcome back. So a quick little video about traces, what kind of traces are there, how we can use them, trace channels and that kind of stuff. So let's dive into this right away. If we set up a default project and we add a line trace, we're going to run into some issues and we need to fix them first. So if we use a visibility line trace on the default characters, we are not going to hit anything. It simply doesn't register the collision. We could try and switch it to a camera trace, but if we shoot in here we hit something, but if we look closely we are hitting the capsule component and not the actual mesh, so that's not what we want either. So how are we going to fix this? We need to add a custom trace channel. So if you go to your project settings over here, you can go to the collision tab. And over here you can add new trace channels. So I'm going to click new trace channel and I'm going to call this bullet trace. And leave the default response to block, that's fine. So that means for all the presets over here, the default response will be set to block right now. Let me open up my enemy that I put in the map. I called him a zombie. Well, he's not really a zombie, but that doesn't matter. So let's check out his capsule component, the collision settings over here. The preset is set to pawn and the object type is also set to pawn. And if I check the mesh, we have a collision preset of a character mesh and that's also an object type of pawn. So let's dive back into the project settings over here. And we need to change this preset. So look for the pawn preset over here, double click it. The new bullet trace that we added is set to ignore. That should not be, it should be set to block, but I tried to record this previously, so probably the settings stuck. So for you it should be set to block and you're gonna set it to ignore for the pawn preset, so that's the capsule component, and accept it. And then also open the character mesh preset and we are going to set it to block, and it should be set to block by default as well, so make sure it's on block and accept it. Now let's go back into our project over here and see what happens. We should be able to hit the actual mesh now. And no, we are not, because we are still using the wrong trace channel. So if I open my character over here, it's still set to camera and we need to use the new bullet trace channel. So it wasn't showing up in the drop down. Let me save everything, reopen it, and there we have the bullet trace. So this should hit the mesh instead of the capsule. There you go, that works. So now we have a bullet trace that's actually hitting what we want. So the next thing, this is a default line trace by channel, and we also have something called a multi-line trace by channel. The difference is this can only detect objects that are set to block in the presets, and this will also detect overlapping objects. So if we want to use bullet penetration, for example, and we go back into our project settings, go to the collision tab over here, and for your character mesh use the overlap setting, accept it and go back in game. Now you will see it suddenly doesn't register any hits anymore. So that's because you use the normal line trace and we need to replace it with the multi-line trace to be able to detect the overlaps. So if I replace this node over here and make sure I plug in the correct starting and ending positions, trace channel bullet trace, and let's make sure we can see what we're doing. 5 seconds, that's fine. So then I need to get this array and get a copy, split it, and make sure we also have impact points. Otherwise it's gonna throw an error over here. So now we should be able to hit him again. And there you have it. Now you can see these are green little dots, and that means it's an overlapping hit, and behind that it can hit something else. And if you look back here, those are red dots, that means it's a blocking hit, and after that the trace can't hit anything else anymore. So if I shoot him from the side now and I shoot through his legs, you can see I can hit him multiple times. So that's something you need to take into account. If you use multi-line traces, you might want to filter out the same actors. So for example, you get the hit actor array over here. So you could do something like add a for each loop and then break the hit result. So let's check if we hit a zombie or not. So cast to zombie, plug that into the loop body, and then we're going to make an array. Promote this to a variable, call this hit zombies, maybe all hit zombies, and then we can use the add unique node. So if I drag this in and do add unique, then it will only add the same actor once. So plug it in like this. If the actor is already in this array, it will return a -1 integer over here, and otherwise it will return the integer of the array index that this object is placed in. So now if I plug this back in over here, then I could possibly add a little print in here. So we can see how many zombies we hit. So that's the default blue color. So now if I shoot them from the side, -1. Oh, that's yeah, that's not correct. So I need to get the length of the array to see how many zombies we actually hit, and plug that in over here. So now that's set to 1. And you can see no matter how many times one trace hits him, we will only return one hit actor. So that's how you can filter out something like that. So that's a difference between a line trace and a multi-line trace. And then we also have shape traces, and that kind of works the same, but they have a shape instead of just a line. So if I would, for example, add a MultiSphereTrace by channel, and I can just plug in the same starting and ending results, but I can also give it a radius. So for example, if you want to shoot something like a laser beam that has a certain width, you can use something like this. So if I set this to be 30 wide and use the bullet trace, make sure we plug all of this stuff in, then we should be able to see what's happening. So now if I fire, you're gonna see I'm actually shooting a big cylinder, and you can see where it hits, or actually overlaps this time. And also at the end there's a blocking hit, so it will stop at the little red dot over there. So this just gives the trace a volume, a size, and you can use it to trace different style or different kind of weapons. So you might want to keep one thing in mind for the results over here. So if you break the hit result, you get a location and an impact point, and you get a normal and an impact normal. So if you do a line trace, the location and the impact point are the same, and the normal and the impact normal are the same as well. There's no difference between those values. If you use a shape trace, the first one is the location of the shape where it doesn't hit anything. So I can show you in game in a few seconds. And the actual point of the hit with, for example, the character is your impact point, and then the normal belongs to the location and the impact normal belongs to the impact point. So let me draw this for a bit longer, so maybe 20 seconds. So if I shoot this, hit the zombie over here, so there we go. So you can see the sphere over here does not penetrate the wall, and the location of the sphere right here, that's the first location that's in the hit result. And then you have the hits with the zombie over here, and those are the impact points. So that's the difference between those variables, and you need to take that into account. So there's sphere traces, there's box traces, there's capsule traces. They have different shapes, but they work the same. So, and again, you have multi-traces and you have normal traces, and the multi-trace is for overlapping hits and the normal one is for blocking hits. So also keep that in mind. Is there anything else we need to show? Not really. There's one thing I want to point out as well. So if you use a multi-sphere trace, you can use the same starting and ending location and simply plug in a radius, and then you will get a sphere at that location. So for example, for a grenade or a rocket or something, you can use that. So I made a little something to show you. So let me copy this guy a few times. There we go, and I'm gonna move this cube over here as well. So I made this little blueprint. Let me see. Where did I put it? Oh damn, I didn't make it in this project. Wait, let me pull up my other project. So this is pretty much the same project. There's no real difference. And there I have a little setup with a few dudes, a cube that's a physics object, and I placed a little bomb in the center. So this bomb over here, you can set it up the same way as you would set up like a projectile or a rocket or a grenade. So I put a radial force component in here, and I set the force strength to 0 and the impulse strength to 1000, and made sure it's a velocity change, so I'm sure I can see what's happening. There's if you do not select this, there you might want to bump up this value, or you need different characters, and you need physics enabled and things like that. So if you select this, you're pretty sure something is going to move. And then when I detonate this bomb, there's a multi-sphere trace by channel on the actor location for the starting and the ending point, and it has the same radius as the radial force over here. So I can see all of the characters that are hit, and after that I'm gonna fire the impulse on the radial force, and that will make it explode. So if I do this, play it, and get the correct viewport. So if I detonate this little bomb over here, you can see it actually has 68 hits in the top left of the screen, and we hit 3 zombies. So the little sphere that you saw drawn over here, that was the sphere traced by channel, and the impact force or radial force is not visible, but I made sure it's the same size so I can see what zombies are hit by that, and then I could execute some custom logic on those as well. So that's how a sphere trace looks on a single location. Okay, so I think we pretty much covered what there is to cover about traces. I hope everything made sense. I hope it's a little bit useful, and the next video we're going to talk about projectiles and setting up homing projectiles as well. So talk to you later, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you liked the video or you think you might have learned something, please consider leaving a like. I'll be back for more.